we have the most powerful signal to be able to make decisions, to recognize what people value. So I
Mm,
actually think that tree chat it almost is perfectly set up for governance because
yeah,
of the branching structure and the
yeah.
depth of conversation you can have. And then we have the up value signal for a way of honestly measuring what people value. So I think that those tools that are at our disposal are going to really help kind of deal with these challenges.
Hey everyone, before we dive into this episode of HOTUS, I want to give a shout out to our very first sponsor, Morgan Linton. Morgan is the CTO of Bold Metrics, a startup that uses advanced AI sizing technology to help some of the world's biggest apparel brands unlock the power of body data. He's also totally crazy about AI coding tools, exploring every innovation in the field. If you're into vibe coding with AI tools, be sure to check out his weekly newsletter at vibecoding.hh, where he curates the best in AI coding tech. Thanks, Morgan, for supporting HOTUS and helping us explore how our tools shape us.
Sounds
So
good to me.
yeah. So first, maybe let's start with how things started for Tree Chat and a little background of yourself, right? Like how you got into building, coding, your interests, and then we'll go from there. We'll
Sure,
see what questions emerge. All right.
sure. So probably it started with me quitting my real estate development job and trying to teach myself web development
Mm,
like 10 years ago or something more than that, probably at this point.
yeah.
And one of the first tools that I built for myself, and the way I teach myself is really I pick up a project and I start working on it. So I think that that's actually a really good way of teaching yourself anything. You need kind of like a goal, and then you're trying to achieve that goal. And you start with simple goals as you're learning, and then you iterate and make it more complex. And that's a really good way of learning. So decided to build a Chrome extension called Navigator with a K at the
I
front.
remember.
Yeah, and so it started out as just a Chrome extension, like a web clipper.
Mm,
And what it would do is you would be doing some research. You would type in a search query into your browser, and then it would save the search query as a question. And then every article that you found to answer that search query, it would let you save in a thread. So the thread would be like, my search query, and then all of the articles that I thought were good answers to that query.
mm,
And that was like 10 years ago. I built that. And then and that was just like a simple tool that I used. First of all, I used it to research. This was like before AI, before this was like Stack Overflow was the way to Stack Overflow
yeah,
is
yeah.
like a question and answer website. So whenever you have a problem building something, you would like go look at this question and answer website. You would do lots of Google searches. It's funny how like you know, that used to be the main way that you taught yourself, and just like 2 years ago, and now it's turned into AI, but it already seems outdated. But
Yeah.
that was a tool that I built to like accelerate my learning
Mm,
to do all this research. And then I ended up getting some software development jobs. So I taught myself web development that way. I got some software development jobs, and I ended up working at startups for many years. And then I ended up being laid off.
mm,
And at that point, I was like, all right, well, I had actually discovered crypto earlier, was into Bitcoin and all of this stuff. And I had some money saved up from that. And I was like, let me try to do my own startup. I actually built a crypto portfolio tracker called Cryptograph that was doing okay, but I basically had to at that point I had to decide whether it was going to be this crypto portfolio tracker or whether I would commit to Navigator full time.
mm,
And I basically decided to commit to Navigator. That's what TreeChat was called at that point, Navigator. And so this simple basically research tool, I thought, well, what if you could share your research that you're doing with others. And so I
yeah.
started sharing the threads. that I was collecting with my research tool, and then it just started iterating from there. Like probably I don't know how many years ago, but at some point, like Twitter threads was a new thing.
Mm.
And so like Twitter threads were really inspirational to me, and the idea that like you could break up knowledge into chunks. And
Mm.
so like you would have a thread, and it would consist of many different messages, and you know, you could quote any one of those messages as the entryway, as a way to connect different topics and different thoughts and different ideas. So Twitter threads inspired me, and so then I just kept iterating and iterating, and eventually I found a partner, my partner Nick, and he actually suggested the name TreeChat because we had this branching model where every thread could branch into many other threads, and you had this like tree of knowledge. And so he
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, let's call it TreeChat because Navigator." Everyone was like, "Is it Novigator? Is it Navigator?"
Uh,
TreeChat was like a nice, concise explanation of the user experience, and that's
mm.
really kind of like now we're in modern times, and of
Mm.
course, like all along, Bitcoin was happening, and the hard fork with Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV,
Yeah.
and small block versus big block Bitcoin, and one realization that I came to, I was very naive when I first started tree chat. And I
Mm.
basically thought, well, if I could just research and find these references and show them to people,
Mm.
then they will see the articles that I'm reading and they will see that, like, why I think the way I do, and they'll obviously agree. And then,
Yeah.
of course, COVID came along and showed that everyone constructed their own realities.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You can show people whatever articles you want. It doesn't matter. People are going to be in their own kind of in their own headspace, in their own information silos, and even
Yeah.
have emotional reasons for rejecting or accepting certain information. And so I was
Mm.
like, well, how can you take this research? How can you take this knowledge that we're uh, compiling and reading and still organize it, still incentivize like what you should look at, what's the best article around some topic,
Mm.
what's the most interesting thing that you've read,
Mm.
and basically how do you rank uh, information, how do you rank knowledge? And that's
Mm.
where the Bitcoin piece comes in, and we decided to use Bitcoin SV because of uh, it's got ginormous blocks and
Mm.
transactions are really cheap, so you can send small casual transactions. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could reward good knowledge, good information with just even tiny amounts of money, and that would both reward the creator, incentivize more good content, and it would also allow us, as people are rewarding content, the best content theoretically should get rewarded more, and therefore you can rank the best content for any topic. And
Yeah.
so all of these kind of ideas came together, and so here we are today, and we just released Up Value, which is essentially what I just explained, which is you can it's like up value is upvote with money, up
Yep.
value. And so
Yep.
you basically reward your favorite content, reward the messages that people are writing with
Mm.
just even small amounts of big block Bitcoin. And um, it's been very interesting to see people do that,
Mm.
but to both send and receive uh, small casual Bitcoin transactions, and
Yeah.
how that it's very encouraging when you
Mm.
receive um, a little bit of Satoshi
Yeah.
uh, for stuff that you're writing. And it
Mm.
feels good to be able to reward content creators for their content. So that's what
Mm.
we just released that like 2 weeks ago. That's what we're working on now, and we have lots of other kind of ideas about where to take that.
Yeah. And you want to share that tree chat at all and show some of this stuff? Are you able
Uh,
to?
you mean on the like share my screen?
Screen share. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Screen share.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah, that'd be
Uh,
great. And then we can just talk over it because I think some interesting things, right? Not a lot of people are I mean, people have heard of Bitcoin, right? But I think a lot of people still don't realize the power of micro and nano payments. So, seeing this visually, I think is a lot better for them to
Yeah.
understand, why this may become more important over time.
Yeah, for sure. So, let's see. Oh, a little bit of lag.
Yeah, all good.
There we go.
Looking good,
All
man.
right. Yeah, so let me actually open it up to the public stream. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think so there's the tree chat piece of it, which is so why is it called tree chat? It's because I can create essentially a tree of threads. So if I decide to write a thread, and actually let me just make this a private thread, but so maybe I'm taking some notes, like some notes about this podcast. And what did we talk about? We talked about history of tree chat, software development. And then each one of these messages can open up into its own thread. So
Mm.
you see that and so now I can be talking in this thread about, you know, first it was called Navigator, or maybe I want to talk about software development,
Mm.
like best way to learn is to do projects. So this is like an overview of what we talked about, but you can see that I started out uh, in this top level thread, and
Mm.
then I wrote some messages in the thread, and
Mm.
then I can expand each one of the messages into its own child thread and expand on any topic like that. So that's
Mm.
why it's called tree chat. It's this tree structure, this thread tree structure.
Yeah.
And so what I just did for you now was that was privately in my um, in a thread by myself.
Mm.
But if we actually go to the public stream, you can see that. Um, let's see if I can find a good example. So people are actually just writing
Bridget.
publicly, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so they can do this. They can create these same tree structures in
Mm.
public. I don't know if there's like a good example here at the top,
Yeah.
but of a tree, but it's the same idea. You can explore this. You can create this tree together and have a conversation and go deep into any topic.
Mm.
And then, of course, in public, I can uh, I can upvalue any message. So you can see that this is 10,000 sats.
Yep.
And if I enjoy this content, I can go ahead and click. And I just sent BSV Godfather
Mm.
10,000 sats.
Mm.
And I can see if I look at my um, avatar here, I can see
Mm.
like all of my rewards and
Yep.
all of the things that I've received. So you can see I'm sending a bunch of, and you can see I'm a net giver, so I give
Mm.
more than I've received.
Mm.
And then these are all my rewards that I've sent people and the rewards that I've received. And so
That's
each
pretty
one
cool.
of these is like fractions of a cent.
Yeah.
But because BSV, Bitcoin SV, is
Mm.
a big blockchain and the fees are so cheap, I can
Mm.
send the tiny payments to others at scale, and like it adds up. So if like five people send you some sats,
Mm.
some message that you wrote, then over time, like you're writing, if we spend quite a bit of time on social media, over time
Mm.
you're accruing these rewards, and then
Mm.
also rewarding others for the content that they're creating. And I think that what this will do is, because first of all, the sending real, even if small amounts of money is a much more powerful signal than like a like
Yeah.
or or even a basically than anything any other social media kind of signal. And
Mm,
it also encourages people to post better content and really be like nicer to each other, because if you think that, oh, I might get some value back, someone might recognize what I'm creating, what I'm writing with some value, you
mm,
know, that's an incentive that's in the back of your mind when you're posting, when you're talking, when you're so like if you have a lot of negative things to say, you're gonna get less rewards. So
mm,
the idea is like what kind of incentives can you construct for better conversation, deeper conversation?
mm. Have you
So
seen
that's
the,
yeah.
sorry, just a question, have you seen where the money aspect has maybe altered people's behaviors in a negative way?
I think the it's not that I've seen it, but I think what you have to guard against is almost like a transactional, businessy kind of feeling or like vibe.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think that again that's why it's so important that
Mm,
you send that you can if you can send big amounts if you want,
mm,
but that you at least can also send very small amounts, and you institute a culture of that it's okay to send very small amounts back and forth so
mm.
that the friction and is not there, so that and you make it very easy. We worked hard to make it like a one click. You just
Yeah.
go ahead and send, and it immediately rewards. So it shouldn't be, you should never be like second guessing it. It
Mm,
should just be like so low cost for you to send
yeah.
something that to reward someone that you're just throwing it out there all the
Mm,
time, and it's like a more playful thing rather than a, oh, like do I want to reward this with like $5? Th at that point it becomes there's like too much mental friction, and there's too much like, is it worth it? And that takes the fun out of it. But if you make the amounts small enough,
yeah.
I, the hope is that you can remove that friction, and that's what we're finding that we are able to do that. To me, the feedback we're getting is that it is fun, and
Mm,
it is fun to both give and to receive. Uh, you know,
yeah.
basically it is quite a powerful signal. It's something more than a like. It's something more
Mm,
than even a retweet. The
mm.
up value, by the way, it works like a retweet. So when you up value something, it actually moves the post up to the top of the public feed.
Okay. And are you able to see
So
like
it works
which
like
post?
similar to
Sorry, I think there's a delay. Are you able to see which posts are popular, right? Are receiving the most sats?
uh yeah, so we are going to be able to see that. So you can see like we have like a hot and a top
Yep.
streams. They need a little bit of work still. So the answer is yes, you're able to, but it doesn't quite work exactly the way we want to. But that's the
Mm,
whole idea is, once we iterate on it a little bit more, the whole idea is that you're going to be able to see like the most valuable content in the system, and even for specific topics. So
mm,
we're still developing that capability.
yeah.
But that's exactly the idea is that you have from these small personal interactions where you're just rewarding content that you enjoy,
Mm,
there's an emergent market, there's an emergent information market that occurs where now you can prioritize, if I'm a new user to the system, how can I see like what should I be looking at? What's the best content that I should be looking at? And what we can
mm.
do is we can use money as a way of measuring that. And I
Yeah.
think that's really interesting because money requires real sacrifice. So it's a hard signal to fake. You can fake
Mm,
likes, you can fake retweets. It doesn't cost you anything. But even
correct.
having a small cost, it becomes an honest signal of what you value.
Yeah.
just by, and of course, everything is on the blockchain. All of these posts are on the blockchain. The up
Mm,
value is on the blockchain. We just released actually the images are now on the blockchain. So all of
mm,
this content is actually being written into a public, essentially, database
yeah.
that, we are essentially a client for this data. We don't own it. The users and the public owns it.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Interesting. So from the wallet side, when you're integrating, do you require a BSV wallet in order to use the platform, or is that like
Oh, you
optional?
don't. That's also something we're trying to make this as easy as possible. So essentially, we generate a wallet for you.
Hmm.
You log in like you would um, to like a Web2 app. We generate a wallet for you,
Okay.
and you're off to the races. You can also log in with yours wallet. So if you do have the yours wallet for the Bitcoin SV ecosystem,
Mm,
then that will you can use that as a way to log in as well, but
mm,
you don't need to. In fact, we actually the user experience for our native wallet is kind of the best user experience, and we want to make sure that um, essentially you don't have to do any kind of setup or anything like that. You can just come in and start using the system. And the other cool thing about that is like you don't really even need to buy BSV if you don't have BSV. It doesn't really matter because the whole culture is about rewarding quality content.
mm,
So just start posting good content. You're very quickly gonna find that people are upvaluing the things you write and the things you post.
yeah,
So you're gonna have the means to upvalue other content that you like. So
interesting. Any observations on the types of content that, does well on the site so far? Just from your observations.
I think that the best content is content that you've put effort into, which is kind of obvious, but like, if you write a song, like a lot of people are posting like AIs, like Suno, and Udio links,
Mm,
and so I might be able to find some.
yeah.
But they're posting like, let's see what I gave. They're posting conversations with AI. We have a lot of AI integrations. They're
Okay.
posting AI images. So I wonder if this is like from Sick Heavy, might be something.
Nice.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so
Interesting.
this isn't a I was this isn't an AI song,
Yep. Yep.
um, but basically like things where people are creating, and that's actually another kind of thing we're trying to point ourselves at. It's called TreeChat.ai. So we have a
Mm.
lot of AI integrations. We integrate with, I can show you
Yeah. Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Please do.
Um, so we actually integrate with many image generation models and many large language models. So you can see, like we have image generation, we have Dolly, we have Stable Diffusion, we have Flux 1.1 Pro, and these other Flux models. Um, so so let's see.
Yeah. Keep going. Give me 1 second. I just need to open my door.
Yeah, yeah, go
One second.
ahead.
Okie dokie.
Let's see. Let's see. What should we do? We should do. Uh,
So this is a Flux integration.
yeah. So I can just type in a prompt.
Mm.
Uh, I added a Flux tag by just
Mhm.
clicking Flux this guy.
Nice.
Um, and like, okay. Oops.
And for the building of the app, are you using any AI editor tools as well currently?
Um, so not sure what. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we're not doing I mean, we have the large language model integration.
Okay.
So that's, I'm not sure what you mean by editor tools,
Yeah.
but that's one way we can, like, we don't have tools to edit your existing messages, but you can just like throw ideas back and forth. And then, I mean, you could edit it manually.
Oh,
But you can
sorry. I
see
meant
that.
like for you, right? Like you know how there's tools like Cursor, and Bolt and all these other tools out right now. For you personally, like what
Oh,
are
do
you
I
using?
use? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
for
I
Tree.
use 100%. I use personally, I use Cursor,
Nice.
and yeah, a lot of code that we and that I write
Yeah.
gets has AI fingerprints on it.
Yep. Hey, whatever gets the end result, right? I don't think most users will care.
Well, they all care because I work faster and I release features faster. So
Yes, yes.
I think it's a huge positive and a huge gain. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of advantages to it. There's of course some pitfalls and some things you have to watch out for, but
Mhm.
overall it's been a huge I love it and it's been a huge productivity boost and it lets you you just go faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but basically, like, yeah, so you can see that I just put this in, it generated this image. Um, and I can essentially what this does is when you write, you can illustrate your messages. So
Mhm.
whenever I feel like I can do like custom emojis, like I don't know, like uh so let's see, let's do Dolly this time. Um
And how are you handling the costs, right? In terms of when people are using these models, right, to generate, are you covering that, or is the user covering that with their own BSV or payments themselves?
right now we're covering the cost of the model of all the generation,
Okay.
but um, the in the future we plan on essentially uh, charging per request, which is again something that BSV
Yep.
lets you do because the fees are so cheap, and we're
Hmm.
just gonna like you'll be able to charge uh, per generation or
Hmm.
per question or whatever, if depending on whether you're using the image generation model or the large language model. And so you'll be able to pay as you go and as you use these things. You won't have to be paying $10 or whatever a month, and
Yep.
you'll be able to choose the particular model that you care about. And so I think it's a perfect fit for small casual transactions,
Mm.
digital cash. I think it's
Yeah.
the right tool for the job.
Yeah, it's
So
getting more
like
popular. Yeah.
you can see that I generated. So I was in
Yeah,
this
yeah, the
conversation.
images. Hmm.
Yeah, I generated a custom emoji. And so like the point here is that you can actually make the conversations more pleasant and more beautiful
Mm.
by just illustrating your own ideas, your own writing.
Yeah.
So, and I think that as these, so those are the image generation models, and we have um, many large language models. You can see GPT-4o, we have Claude, we have Perplexity, which is very good at answering like specific questions. It goes out and
Nice.
research things for you.
Yeah.
Claude Opus, which is a very advanced model, O1 preview. And again, at the moment, we're subsidizing these, but soon we're going to roll out. So you can use these for free today. Uh,
Mm.
but in the near future, we're actually going to roll out like per request pricing, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
which would be interesting. And then we have like Asshole, which has a personality, very like abrasive
Yeah.
chat bot. And then we have Grok from X.
Yeah.
So I can invite any one of these. these can be invited with multiple people. So if you're in a conversation with many different people, you can
Mm.
invite like, Claude Sonnet is ready. Like, what do you think about some emojis? See what he says. Um, and all right, so he thinks I'm asking him to generate image, but ask for custom emojis. I understand TreeChat is a platform, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So you can start talking about whatever with these large language models, and it's all within TreeChat and its structure. So if I'm like, oh, I want to expand on this message and I want to you know take this tangent, I can go ahead and continue the conversation in this thread,
Mm.
or if I want to expand more on this. And again, right now we're in a home private thread,
Yeah.
but if I could be doing this in public,
Mm.
and other people would be joining me, and basically, and those people could also invite their own AI. And so
Mm.
like it's a very collaborative. There's nothing quite like it out there where it's
Mm.
both humans and these chatbots together,
Yeah.
growing this tree, this conversation tree. So it will
Interesting.
be interesting. We're gonna do more work on um, making these models, like giving them their own avatars so they can even having them recognize that they're from different providers, and even having them talk to each other, these
Yeah.
kinds of things. And you can imagine hooking them up to the image generation so maybe they can illustrate their own content. And of course,
Mm.
all of that being rewarded with um, up value. So the good content actually, like, you can imagine a scenario where you generate some images, people like
Mm.
them, they reward you, and you are accruing Bitcoin that way. Or you're
Yeah.
having an interesting conversation with a large language model, and if it's interesting enough, people reward you, you're accruing Bitcoin that way. You don't even have to necessarily be talking to another human being, but as
Mm.
long as you're generating good content and you're
Mm.
being upvalued, then and then obviously if someone upvalues your content, then that's going to get to the top of the stream,
Yeah.
and others will see that and they'll upvalue it more. So the idea here is actually that the algorithm, like we have, there's a lot of talk about, who controls the algorithm. Well, on TreeChat, it's the users, and
Mm.
it's by upvaluing,
Mm.
and literally by they record what they value,
Mm.
and the algorithm is we show others what the TreeChat users are valuing. So it's a very
Mm.
decentralized approach to how do you rank things? What does the algorithm look like?
Mm. And who's your design inspiration for Tree Chat?
Do you mean like, do you mean like a designer, or which apps, or?
Anything, because I always find it fascinating, like where people get their inspiration from, for design. And it
Right.
is a, unique UI. So I like it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, yeah, where you get your design inspiration from.
So I think that I mean, Twitter is obviously, like I mentioned, like Twitter threads
Yep.
are a big design inspiration.
Mhm.
Even TweetDeck,
Yeah,
TweetDeck.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if
That's what this
it's like,
reminds me of. Mm.
yeah. So the thing with TweetDeck is like all of the, so you can see we have these infinite panels. So
Yeah.
like this is everywhere I've been during this
Mm.
conversation. Um, I mean, this is actually a good point, is that, in tree chat, the whole idea is that I can, whenever I navigate somewhere, so let's say I want to go to the public stream again, you can see that I went to the public stream. So here's a good example of, by the way, of good content being someone creating good content. Just to go back to a
Mm.
previous point for a second,
Yeah.
is like someone made BSV Godfather made a video, he put it to
Mm.
music. So I super appreciate that. So I'm gonna go ahead and upvalue him. And then I'm sure that other users are going to as well. And you can see actually who you can see these are all the people that upvalued
Mm.
this particular piece of content.
Mm.
But just to go back down the stack,
Yeah.
is you can see that whenever I open up a new stream, so like I just opened up the public stream here, it didn't get rid of any of the other panels. So like I never lost context. So now if I want to go back to, oh, this is where we were talking about 2 seconds ago. Oh,
Mm,
here's the LLM message that we were talking about. I can swipe back through the history of where I was. You see? So,
mm,
oh, here's that image I generated. None of it went away. It's all like every time I open up a new kind of context, it I don't lose my old context as opposed to like pretty much any other app.
mm.
It actually blows away what you were looking at 2 seconds ago when you navigate. In
Yeah.
TreeChat, it just appends it, like it puts it in. There's this horizontal, infinite horizontal panel
Mm,
situation. So I can just swipe back and forth between um, the conversations I'm having,
mm,
or the notes I'm taking, or the images I'm generating. Like
mm.
it's quite a I think it's a very powerful, it's one of my favorite features of TreeChat is this ability to very quickly context switch without the worry that, oh,
Mm.
I'm going to lose something.
Yeah.
It's like I remove that fear uh,
Mm.
from you. And so it becomes like, oh, like, let me take, for example, like, oh, I'm reading the public stream and I'm like, oh, let me take a quick note.
Yeah.
Um, I just open up a panel with a new note.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I
It's,
want to make it
it's
private.
like,
And I'm
I'm also
like,
kind of expecting like a timeline at the top that you can kind of scrub through. Um, because as I look at this, right, I'm like, oh, if I go far back enough, I kind of want a quicker way, right, to just like get to a point in time. But you've got
yeah, yeah,
essentially horizontal and vertical timelines here,
yeah.
which is
So
kind
you actually have that. You have this at the bottom here, you have this history. So if I click on the history panel,
of, mm-hmm.
um, you can see it actually gives you a vertical rather history of
Mm.
everywhere. So I can, so it's exactly what you mentioned is I can quickly get um, I can quickly
Interesting.
hop around basically. And so yeah, so that's one of my favorite kind of features here too is
Mm.
it's this idea of asynchronous work, multitasking, like when you're not worried that, navigating somewhere is going to lose your context, you become much freer in how many things you can do at the same time. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I just gave you an example. I was, on this public stream, I quickly took a quick note. Okay, I'm
Mm.
done here. Next that out. Okay, I'm done here. And then I still have so it's this like, I think this is kind of the first version of this very futuristic UI that we're gonna build. That's gonna take advantage of
Mm.
this primitive uh, this idea.
Yeah.
And I think like once you start working in tree chat,
Mm.
like the other user experiences, they feel very like slow and um, it's not slow in terms of performance, but
Yeah.
slow because like you just have to destroy what you're looking at to start
Mm.
a new task.
Mm.
That's no way to work. You should be
Yeah.
able to very quickly and easily switch context, effortlessly switch context, and know that you can always very easily get back to what you were looking at, and that's what we're kind of going for here. So um, there's a lot of ideas here that they're pretty new, they're novel ideas like the branching, the infinite horizontal scrolling,
Mm.
and there is some learning curve to it, but I think it's I think it's worth it. And the
Yeah.
people that find themselves having surmounted that learning curve, they really enjoy the tool because again, that learning curve, like being able to once you're past it, there's so much power in being able to look at like five different things at once,
Mm.
not worrying about losing anything, being able to reward content. Like there's a lot of power, and so we decided to embrace change
Mm.
and I do something new and not have just a typical old like Twitter clone.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. No, I love this, man. And it's like essentially changing the way that communities interact with each other too. And I think I'm starting to see, I don't know if you have tried out, some of these other networks that came out during COVID, Mastodon, Blue Sky. I think, when Elon took over and Trump
Yeah.
won, a lot of people were like moving over to Blue Sky. And it's all interesting because they all have their own opinionated way of managing these networks and communities, right? And I think it's good that you have stuck with this because essentially this is opinionated software, and there are very good, successful examples of opinionated software. Linear is one of my favorites, right? They have a very opinionated way, right, of handling issues, and the software is gorgeous, and I love using it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you got here as well. So I'm also curious, right, from the like business model standpoint, right? We saw how like Twitter when Elon came in, he added the premium version, right, and the blue checks and
Mhm.
whatnot, or at least just I think improving on that. Do you offer a pro membership or premium, sort of subscription yet, or what are your thoughts? Where are you at with the business model for this?
Yep. So right now we're in user acquisition mode. So monetization is secondary to just acquiring an audience and acquiring a
Yeah,
community, which has been going pretty well.
yeah,
So that's what we're focused on now. However, as I mentioned,
mm,
for example, all the AI tools, one, well, we plan on starting to charge for those on a per request basis, and I think that's going to be a good source of income for us,
yep,
especially because it's just they're so powerful and creators are going to love them. And we already see people using AI both to illustrate their images or to write songs, and all of that can be integrated right into the social network, so they don't have to go anywhere else to do that. And
mm,
then we just charge per request on a per request basis, which is actually the correct way of doing it. And actually, all of the foundational models, they're actually going to probably move to that model because
mm,
to that charging model, because it's like you don't know upfront how much you're going to use the tool,
yeah,
and the cost of using it one time versus 30 times,
mm,
like you can't predict that. And so people are really going to have to meter that usage. And I think that big block Bitcoin is the perfect way of charging for that. And so
yeah,
that's the one way we're gonna monetize. Another way we monetize is we take a fee on every up value.
mm,
So essentially, and this is a very good way of doing it because it aligns our incentives with the incentives of our audience.
ew,
So, for
mhm,
example, we will never advertise. We are completely against advertising,
mm,
and we hold our audience's attention to be sacred. So
yeah,
we try to maximize the value of the investment in attention that our users make into TreeChat. That's the whole
yeah,
idea of having a powerful signal of valuable content, is that like when you give us your attention, we're going to try to give you the most valuable content possible.
yeah,
And so what happens is if we are successful at giving you valuable content
mm,
and you end up upvaluing that content and we take a fee on that,
mm,
then the more valuable content we show, then the more money we make. And
yeah,
so our incentives are to show you valuable content, and that's how we will make money.
yeah,
And we're not beholden to any advertisers. We're not trying to, get an emotional rise out of anyone so that they start, getting into a debate. In fact, there's modes of using tree chat where, if you're looking for some answer or you're taking a quick note or whatever,
mm,
you actually it's more valuable for you to spend less time on the platform, but you still
mm,
have an opportunity to communicate the value that received by upvaluing. So you can
yeah,
imagine a situation where someone is actually upvaluing uh, more if they're spending less time on the platform,
mm,
because it's the important metric here is the value that's exchanged.
yeah,
And so we have a way of capturing that. And essentially, as this platform grows, what we're going to be able to say is like, hey, come see the most valuable content about this topic. And no one is going to be able to compete with us because they're not measuring that.
mm.
They're not, they have no way of measuring what the most valuable content is. But our audience and our platform is measuring that through the use of up value.
Interesting. Interesting. All right, man. And I guess to sort of wrap things up, like what are you most excited for in 2025 for Tree Chat, right? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to getting the message out there that this exists, that it's very enjoyable to use, it's very powerful, that we're essentially able to reward content creators for writing, for posting music, for posting images, for creating right in the platform. And that there's, our audience actually appreciates that and rewards that content, and that's a mode of social media that works, that is much more positive than the ad-driven engagement bait that you see oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to for our audience to continue to grow and to
Mm,
provide value to Tree Chat users. And and of course, we're also going to iterate on the AI creation tools. So like we're just getting started with these tools. So you
yeah.
can imagine a world where, now it's like illustrate your posts, then it's going to be, give your posts a soundtrack, then it's going to
Mm,
be turn your post into a movie.
mm,
Like it's the future is going to be really crazy, and you're going to be able to basically at some point converse with movies and then be
yeah.
rewarded for it. So you're you're going to be some, not everyone, and it's not the point, but there's going to be some people that earn, I don't know if a living, but they're going to earn meaningful amounts of money
Mm.
by expressing themselves in every medium possible, sound, movie, language, and it's going to be quite an incredible time, and it already is actually.
Seriously, like the ability to create, right? Like with all these AI tools is like getting insane. I think what it's
Yeah,
putting focus on is like your creativity, your ability to like imagine and execute on this stuff. Because the barriers, I think, to building application and stuff is just getting lower and lower. And I think
exactly.
what is really fascinating is the community aspect is a big part, right? And we've been in the Bitcoin space and seen how much of an influence they have on the direction of everything and how important it is to kind of keep things aligned. Otherwise, things can just go off in a direction you don't want or don't
Right.
intend. And so even for the network that's growing for you guys right now, um, what what do you think you'll will you do anything to sort of ensure that like stuff stays aligned? It's like because again, we've seen what has happened when people kind of go off in one direction, right? And then you
Right.
just lose the plot of your own invention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had much time to think about that?
Well, it's 100%. I mean, it's not easy growing a social network or managing a community. There's risks and there's pitfalls, and um it's kind of a balancing act of kind of what your vision is, but then you have an audience and a community that grows along with you, and how they uh what their desires are. But I actually think we're very well positioned
Mm,
to deal with that, again, because we have the most powerful signal to be able to make decisions, to recognize what people value. So I
mm,
actually think that Tree Chat it almost is perfectly set up for governance because
yeah.
of the branching structure and the
Yeah.
depth of conversation you can have. And then we have the up value signal for a way of honestly measuring what people value. So I think that those tools that are at our disposal are going to really help kind of deal with these challenges.
Great.
And if we're successful, I think that many other communities are going to recognize that and start migrating over to us,
Mm,
not just in terms of posting on it as a social network, but
mm,
even setting up private communities. And
yeah.
we have the capability of creating private streams that
Yeah.
are separate, siloed from the wider social network. So you can have like a Telegram channel style
Mm,
experience, or a Slack channel style experience, where you
Yeah.
build a community, and all of these same powers, all of these same signals are available to you in a private community. And so
Mm.
these kind of governance primitives are going to be very useful to deal with the challenge that you mentioned.
Man, I look forward to it. So yeah, really appreciate your time, dude. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Thanks.
log back into Tree Chat as well. Get things
Yeah.
going. I've always, I've always been intrigued by the concept, man, ever since the Navigator times.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm so happy to see that like you've stuck with it, because I think the timing is right for you as well, for this type of
Yeah.
platform. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, yeah, for sure, George. Like, make some posts,
gonna
generate some images, and
definitely
I'm sure our audience is gonna upvalue some of your content.
love it. Thanks a lot, dude.
All right,
All
man.
right.
Later.